Hey, everybody. On Wednesday, July 14th, Martha and I will host a live virtual cookout. We will take your questions and answer messages from our bursting inbox. It'll be a casual conversation where we get to spend some time with you. The video event is free to everyone, but you have to register. Go to waywardradio.org/cookout. That's waywardradio.org/cookout. Thanks. We'll see you there. You're listening to Away with Words, the show about language and how we use it. I'm Grant Barrett.
And I'm Martha Barnett, and I am sorely tempted to start a new hobby, if only for the slang.
What's it this time? Painting bridges? Naming clouds?
No. I got tired of those. But the vocabulary of the hobby I'm talking about includes terms like coin ball, nighthawk, gold dance, and my favorite, canslaw. CANSLAW.
Canslaw. Coin ball? Is this like something you buy at the fair? I'll have a corn ball, coin ball, and
Right.
a corn dog.
And an elephant ear. No, these are all terms that come from the field of metal detecting.
Oh, right.
So a coin ball is a chunk of dirt you find with a coin inside, and maybe in their lingo it has friends, that is, there are other little coins in the same hole that you dig. And canslaw is shreds of aluminum cans left after a lawnmower ran over them, which I think is just so picturesque. And a nighthawk is somebody who detects illegally at night, and a gold dance is what you do if you actually discover gold.
Oh, yeah, the little happy jig. The little
Yes.
happy jig of discovery. Yeah, smile on your face.
Yes, and I was all excited about this having watched the wonderful BBC series Detectorists. Which,
Yes.
have you seen that?
I've seen a couple episodes. It's fun but weird.
Exactly. Well, it's like us. It's a couple of passionate nerds who are maybe socially awkward, but
Yeah,
but
keep
but
going.
yeah. I think it's just hysterically funny. I am really luxuriating in this show, but apparently metal detecting is becoming very trendy in this country. You can go on Instagram and see very fashionable photos of women with their metal detectors.
There are Instagram metal detecting influencers? Is this what you're telling me?
This is what I am telling you.
Look, unless you're wearing white socks with sandals and you've got a dad bod, I don't think you can be a real metal detecting influencer. I just don't think there's an opening for you. So, Martha, I guess you'll be sharing some more metal detecting language later.
I absolutely will. I am just so excited about this new potential hobby.
Well, if you find nuggets of wonder and brilliance in what you've been reading and hearing, share it with us, and we'll share it with everyone else. 877-929-9673. Or if you've got thoughts and questions about language of any kind, send them to us in email, words@waywardradio.org. And if you've got responses or ideas, put them on Twitter at WAYWORD.
Hey there, you have a way with words.
Yes, hello. This is Larry Brandhorst. I'm calling you from a little town of Sparks, Georgia, right at the moment.
What can we do for you, Larry?
I was wondering, these newscasters like news shows or talk shows or whatever, and even on the radio, if like I'm sitting there listening and they go to a commercial break, and then when they get done with their commercial break, they always go like, "Welcome back." You know, it's like, and I'm going like, "Welcome back? What do you mean, welcome back? I didn't go anywhere. You guys are the ones that left me." Even if I was watching the show and I was really interested in it, they left, you know, and then they're welcoming me back. So it's like they got it 180 degrees backwards.
Okay, I got a couple things to say that I think will take a little bit of the edge off of this for you, all right?
Okay.
One of those is that the welcome back is part of the glue of broadcasting, as it's sometimes called. And we use this on radio too, where you've got to do things to ease people in and out of the different segments of the show. And you can't make too many assumptions about what happened in between, both what happened on the station's side, the radio station or television station side, or on the listener's side. So those television shows that you're watching, they don't know maybe what the local station did in between their segments. They don't have a lot of control over the commercials, for example, necessarily, except maybe
Okay.
even if they're the local news. So they've got to come up with something fairly basic to kind of cover all the eventualities, to ease you out and to ease you back in. The other thing they want to do is they want to make it brief. They want to do something simple. Welcome back is 2 words. It kind of does the job. And they want to make it friendly. Welcome does that. But there's another thing. There's a linguistic concept here known as the least expenditure of effort. And the linguists who have proposed this talk about how a lot of our social transactions are formalities that are pretty much meaningless, except that they fill this back and forth ritual. When you go to the grocery store and you're in the checkout line, you say hello to the clerk and they say hello back, and they say, how are you? And you say, how are you? And neither one of you really cares all that much, but you're required by social convention to have that back and forth. And this happens a lot of the times in a lot of places. When you're in the workplace and you pass a coworker that you see 15 times a day, you make
Yeah.
some kind of gesture, either a grunt or a noise or a head nod or something to acknowledge their presence. So sometimes you just raise your eyebrows a little bit because social convention requires that you make some expenditure of effort, but it's the least expenditure of effort. It doesn't matter what it is. And so welcome back fills that. It's the least expenditure of effort that they can do just to meet that social convention.
Well, Larry, now you have me feeling self-conscious because, of course, on this show, after we take a break, we come back and we say, you're listening to A Way with Words. You're probably sitting there going, I know.
No,
But we're
I don't do that. It's the welcome back is like I actually left and I did something and came back. That's the part that So like when somebody comes into work the next day and stuff, and I'm already there early, and I'll say, hey, welcome back, and they look at me like I go, well, you left and you went home and stuff, and you came back to work, didn't you? They go, oh yeah, and then we start or whatever, But
Martha, I think I agree with Larry. I think if I were scripting a show like that, I would just skip the welcome back and just say, as soon as I started the segment, say, today we're talking with Larry about greeting and saying hello. Larry, welcome. Larry, you were saying before the break, blah, blah, blah. Like I would just go right into the segment and just skip the welcome back, because either way, all I have to do is summarize what we're doing and go right into the segment, right?
Or take the opportunity to, get some exercise, run around the house, and then come back. That's
So that
probably
they're not
very
wrong.
healthy.
Make them truthful.
Yeah.
Actually go away.
Help them out.
Yeah, but then I might miss the welcome back, and I'd have to just
that's
come in
true.
and jump in, So either way.
Oh, Larry, we're going to get so many calls about this from people who agree with you and have better ideas for the TV folks. I just know we are.
Well,
So thank you for opening that can of worms, and we'll be sure to share what people have to say on the show, okay?
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it. You guys enjoy the day. Thank you.
All right, be careful out there.
For sure. All right, bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
What should television people be saying when they come back from a break? 877-929-9673. Email words@waywardradio.org.
Hi there. You have A Way with Words.
Hi, my name is Sam. I'm calling from Brooklyn.
Hey, Sam. Welcome. Well, what's on your mind today?
So I am originally from Arkansas. And when we were kids, when we were swinging next to each other, if we started swinging in sync, we would say, get out of my bathtub. And I then moved to Missouri and discovered that no one there used that expression. Years later, I was a classroom teacher here in Brooklyn and discovered that no one here used that expression. And then recently, I was talking to a friend from Maine who did know what that expression meant and used it in the same context that I did. So I think that you had discussed in the past, where that expression might come from, but I was really curious about how it would be common in Arkansas and in Maine, but not in any of these states in between.
Oh, that's a great question. When you were a kid in Arkansas, on the playground, you'd be swinging, and what's happening and then what's the expression that you say again?
When you're swinging, when you get to a point where you're swinging side by side, really in sync with each other, one of the kids would say, get out of my bathtub.
Get out of my bathtub. Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
So what we talked about before was maybe one of the reasons that people say get out of my bathtub is because that dirt hollow underneath your feet kind of looks like a bathtub.
Oh.
And Jacqueline from Michigan, the last time we talked about this, she said they not only used it for when they were in sync, but when someone would get in the path of your swinging in that dirt ditch, you would also shout, "Get out of my bathtub."
Mm.
And there were other ones. Anna, who grew up in New Hampshire, said they would say, "Get out of my window." Crystal from Bonsall, California, said they would get out of my shower. And Sue, also from California, says they would say, "Get out of my toilet." So there's like a theme here. There's like a bathroom theme. Anna in Ohio said they called it double dating. And similarly, Catherine Tallahassee said they would yell, "Look, we're married," if you were swinging in sync. There's all these variations. And that's how children's folklore works. Children not only pass it to each other, but they come up with their own innovations. They want something that's theirs. Now, the great folklorists Iona and Peter Opie have done a lot of work and have several books of children's folklore. And I've talked about it on the show before, and it's some of my favorite work in all of folklore. And they talk about this strange circumstance, for example, when a rhyme would be about, say, the royalty in London. There'd be a rhyme on the playground that they would collect. And then they would get, say, a letter 2 weeks later from one of their correspondents in Australia, one of their informants, with that same rhyme. And you wonder, how could that happen? How did a
Right.
children's rhyme make it across the oceans and these two continents and these two playgrounds? And it's because the networks of children work the same way that adult networks do. Children, they pass these things just as quickly as they pass the common cold, really.
Mhm.
They're little sponges for everything, including funny little rhymes and funny little sayings. And they're also quick to parrot. They're quick to
Mhm.
say something back and repeat it later. So in some ways, children are more social than adults, and they're more likely to see this stuff, this folklore spread across great
Right.
distances.
Well, thank you so much. This was really wonderful.
Thanks for sharing these memories.
Call us again sometime.
Thank you.
Bye, Sam.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
877-929-9673. Grant, here's a little bit of metal detectorist slang that I think you'll appreciate, and that is joke tag. Joke, joke tag.
It's when they find something that's not valuable and they put on it a Roman era coin, but it's just a pull tab from an old Fanta.
There are a lot of pull tabs for sure, and people call those beaver tails, as a matter of
Beaver
fact.
tails. That's funny. I don't know. What's a joke tag?
A joke tag is something that you use to play a practical joke on other detectorists. It's a small metal plate that you put your name on and you leave it behind for other people to find.
That's kind of evil.
It is, isn't it? But, you got this little community of fellow enthusiasts. It's fun
Yeah.
to play a little joke every once in a while.
What's the language of your little community? 877-929-9673.
Support for A Way with Words comes from a gift honoring students of the San Diego Community College District. City College, Mesa College, Miramar College, and continuing education prepare them for jobs, personal goals, and transfer to universities. sdccd.edu.
This program would be impossible without your support. Donate at waywardradio.org. Thank you.
You're listening to A Way with Words, the show about language and how we use it. I'm Martha Barnett.
And I'm Grant Barrett, and here he is, ducking in the doorway like Gandalf in a hobbit hole, our quiz guy, John Chinesky. Hi, John.
That's right. Any 6'5" person has to duck in this tiny little warren you call your studio, or my studio, actually, for some reason. Okay, how are you guys doing? How are you this week?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. You?
Good. I'm doing great. There's this old joke. The joke is, what's a synonym for thesaurus? Well, it's a book of synonyms, of course. Now, let's run some common titles and phrases through a thesaurus and see what comes out the other end. For example, if I asked you to identify the novel Self-Respect and Bias, you would answer...
Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, Pride and Prejudice, 1813, Jane Austen. Very good. So you're on board already. Now, the clues coming up are a mix of titles and phrases. Bear in mind, I've synonymized each word separately, and the synonym may not reflect the original intended meaning of the word. Ready?
Okay.
Okay. We'll start with some easy ones. It's one of the most famous works of art, The Ultimate Repast.
The Last Supper.
Yes, The Last Supper. Good. How about the board game, Frivolous Chase?
This have to do with trivia.
Yes, it does.
Trivial Pursuit?
Trivial Pursuit. That's right. I don't think the kind of trivia I do is not frivolous. Just going to put that out there. Now, sometimes I just synonymized the key words in a phrase. For example, this is something you might hear regularly, though you may not believe it. Your shout is significant to us.
Your call is important to us. Please stay on the line, and a representative will be with you shortly.
I don't even believe it when Grant says it. Now, you guys are too good at this. I'll just give you the clue, and if you need a category, I will provide. Okay, here's the first one. The sizable blow supposition.
The name of my next album.
Sizable blow supposition by Grant Barrett. I love it.
The Big Bang Theory.
Yes, to blow something is to bang, blow.
Oh.
Yeah. End of a vendor.
Willie Loman.
Yes.
Death of a Salesman.
Death of a Salesman. That's right, Arthur Miller. How about this one? Subsist, cacinate, cherish.
Eat, pray, love.
Live,
Close.
laugh, love.
It is
live, laugh, love.
Live,
Fantastic.
laugh, love. Anyway, we lived through that puzzle. We laughed at a few of the answers, and I love you guys. You're fantastic. So well done.
Oh, thanks so much, John.
Thank you.
Words and language, slang and grammar. 877-929-9673. Email words@waywardradio.org.
Here's some more slang that I keep running across as I read about metal detectorists. One of them is rhubar, R-U-B-A-R. Can you guess what that
Rhubarb.
is? Mm-hmm.
No, I don't. It sounds like foobar or
It does.
rebar.
It does, but if you find something that's metal that's been buried for a long time, it might be rusted beyond all recognition.
Ah, yes. Rusted
rhubar.
instead of fouled up.
Indeed. 877-929-9673.
Hello, you have a way with words.
Hey, Grant, this is Willem, and I'm calling from Chicago. How are you?
Hi, Willem. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Willem.
I recently finished graduate school. Thank you very much. And
Mazel
while I was
tov.
in graduate school, I had a professor at Northwestern who would constantly say, when he was giving lectures, quote, end quote, and then he would go on to talk. And I always found it kind of funny that he said, quote, end quote, as opposed to quote, unquote. And this particular professor is from Argentina. So a part of me felt like, oh, maybe it's just a colloquial thing. Like maybe in Argentina they say it differently or it's translated differently. So I didn't really think anything of it. You know how when you hear something new for the first time and then, of course, you hear it every day for the next year kind of thing.
Sure.
So I started hearing that all the time. And then I thought, am I crazy? Is it quote, end quote, and not quote, unquote? Because I thought it was quote, unquote. And then, of course, I started looking it up, and the etymology, from what I could find, isn't really defined. Like there's not a clear etymology for quote, unquote, or quote, end quote. But boy, is there a conversation and a debate online about which one is correct. So I thought I should call you guys, since you are obviously the experts on record, and say, what is the definitive answer? That is my question.
Oh, definitive.
The definitive answer. But I'm wondering where else you hear end quote. Do you hear it or are you reading it?
No, I definitely am not reading it. I'm hearing it. And what's interesting is I've always thought that it was quote unquote if you are saying that as a pair before giving the quoted text in speech. So if I were to say, so Martha, I was talking to Grant and he said, quote unquote, this guy is crazy. Like I could see it being quote unquote. But if
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying a longer quote, if I say, hey, I was reading a book by Sam Harris, and Sam went on to say, quote, blah, 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 end quote, then I could
Mm-hmm.
see where it would be a different, different between quote, unquote, and quote, end quote. But I recently was listening to one of the many audiobooks that I constantly listen to. And the author of this particular audiobook said, quote, end quote. And then he went on and quoted this long paragraph. And I just thought it was so weird that he said, quote, end quote, at the beginning of the long paragraph as opposed to quote, unquote. Am I making any
Right.
sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, you're raising several important points, one of which is that quote unquote, as you pointed out, is its own idiom. I might say, yesterday I gave myself a quote unquote haircut, which adds a little bit
Right,
more
right, right.
meaning, right? Maybe that haircut doesn't look as good as if I went to see. Uh, it's interesting also that you mentioned audiobooks because if you're an audiobook narrator, particularly in nonfiction, the company you're working for may have a house style where they prefer that you end a quotation with the word end quote. So, as you said,
Mm,
quote, blah, 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 blah. End quote. And in the same way, reading audiobooks, if there's a caption, for example, they'll say caption. Martha has a terrible haircut. End caption. Or if there's a longer
interesting.
explanation, they'll say reader's note. Martha couldn't get to see her stylist, and she has actually tried to do artistic projects before. End note. So you'll have
Mm.
end caption, end note, and end quote. You've probably read enough online to know that end quote and unquote apparently arose in response to the need to render speech in writing, starting with the telegraph in the 19th century and then later dictation devices. It's less natural in everyday speech, but it's useful in things like audiobooks. But I'm interested that the
Mm.
Argentinian professor used end quote because it's not as common as unquote, is it, Grant?
No, it isn't. Not at all. Quote unquote is used both in the UK and in North America, but quote end quote is mainly American English, and it's really rare. Although the sticklers, the people who are usually kind of prim about their English, tend to prefer quote end quote because they for some reason think that unquote undoes everything that came before, that it stops it being a quote, and it actually doesn't.
Oh, that's so funny. I love it. Well, thank you so much. This has been so great. And especially, during the pandemic, I just can't tell you how much the show has been such a great form of support because I can listen to an episode over and over and over again and always get something new. And I certainly love all the book recommendations and just finished reading for the second time Diary of a Comic Queen, which was
Oh, Mary
unbelievable. So
Norris.
yeah, it was so funny and so interesting. So definitely keep the recommendations coming over the airwaves. So thank you. Thank you both so much. This has been so great.
Thank you,
Well,
Willem. We appreciate the call. Call us again sometime.
All right.
Bye
all
Take
bye.
care.
right.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
You may be a little shy about being on the radio, but it doesn't take anything but dialing the phone to be on A Way with Words, 877-929-9673, or explain your thoughts in email, words@waywardradio.org.
In English, if something isn't that far away, we'll say it's just a stone's throw. But I love the German expression, it's Katzensprung, which means cat's jump. It's a cat's jump away.
Oh, and I love that because it's just comprehensive in English. Katzensprung? Is that
That's very good.
cat
Yeah.
sprung?
Right, just a springing cat. I love that expression because you can just picture it, right? I mean, as many times as you've seen your cat spring from one spot to another, it's just a
Yeah,
little distance.
I've got one who is a great jumper. She can do like a nearly 10-foot vertical leap on top of my big bookshelves. It's lovely to see. We know we have a lot of bilingual, trilingual, and multilingual listeners. Tell us the interesting words in the languages you know, 877-929-9673, or email words@waywardradio.org. Hello, you have a way with words.
Hi, this is Sandy. I'm calling from Richmond, Virginia, but my heart is in the Berkshires of Western Massachusetts.
Oh, lovely.
And
That's great country.
yeah, if you know it, yes, it is. I have a word that's been a mystery in my family for many years. My mom went to Smith College in Northampton, Mass, and once a year they would take a day off from school, and they would go to the mountains, and they would have bacon bats. As far as I know, my mom recently died, so I'm afraid she doesn't have the answer. She's been dogging me to get the answer to this. They would get together and they'd play games, and they would, I'm thinking they would sing, games for sure. It was all women's college. Well, Mom had always wondered what this word meant and what the origin of it was, and I Googled it, and she didn't seem to be terribly satisfied, and so I decided I would probably ask some of the old timers here around the lake what their definition of bacon bat was. And one of them said, well, we go across the lake, and we would have hot dogs and hamburgers, and we would just bat thoughts around, just shoot the breeze. Yeah, and then this other guy said, "Oh no, we would have hot dogs and hamburgers, and then we would go down the next day and play softball." And that's where the bat came in. And then my husband had this crazy notion that maybe it had something to do really with bacon and with a bat, but maybe long ago they called sticks bats. So the question I have for you is: it bake and bat, or is it bacon bat? And is it bat like softball, or is it bat like things that fly around? That's my question.
All right, so Sandy, we're talking about, let's just get this right, BACON space BAT, 2 words, right? Bacon bat?
Bacon bat. Nobody really knew how to spell it, or maybe it's bake, B-A-K-E, and
well, let's clear that one up right away. Martha and I both know that it is bacon bat, bacon like the meat.
All right.
And the really interesting thing is that this is an entirely different definition of the word bat. There's an old sense of bat that means a spree or a debauched activity. It may come from an old phrase, to go on the batter, which means to walk the streets for purposes of prostitution.
I don't think my mom would agree with that. But
No. It didn't mean that after a while. It lost that meaning after a while.
Yes, I was getting to that. For college girls back in the day, and the earliest we see this is 1907, and associated indeed with Smith College.
No kidding. Oh gosh.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And so the idea was a spree, sort of with the air of being naughty a little bit. You know, you're getting to go outside and experience the great outdoors. You're doing something other than being stuck at college studying. And so, yes, it was a much watered down version of the term bat. But it was a great excuse to go out and do something different, to party outdoors. Here's a wonderful description of that kind of activity from a few years later in the Yampa Leader, which is a Colorado newspaper. Check out this description, Sandy. A young college friend informed me that the very latest thing in outdoor affairs was a bacon bat. We all feel the call of the wild on these glorious days, and I'm sure many of our readers will want to have a bacon bat just as soon as they read this. Provide plenty of delicious bacon, sliced very thin, sweet potatoes, and several dozen finger rolls. Build a fire, roast the sweet potatoes, or take a frying pan and have the potatoes boiled at home and fry them over the coals. Grill the bacon on the ends of long sticks, insert the finger rolls, and you have a meal fit for a king. And this writer also suggests you bring coffee and says roasting Irish potatoes and taking a jar of butter with plenty of tissue paper napkins. Hard-boiled eggs are a welcome addition with a jar of tiny cucumber pickles and olives, both ripe and green. That was their version of it, but it's
what was
pretty...
the date of that?
That was 1911. So obviously
and they
this was
about tissue paper?
Tissue napkins.
Tissue napkins. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there were different versions. Yes, but there were different versions of this, but it was the idea of luxuriating outdoors with other people and really tasty food.
Yes, take me away.
Does appear to have started with Smith College, which, as you know, is in Northampton, Massachusetts. That 1907 that Martha mentioned was part of their Mountain Day. Do you know what that is?
Well, I do because I went to school in Northampton too, and we would have a mountain day, and it was always a
Aha.
surprise.
So Mountain Day, which they still have, and they had in 1907, is a day where nobody but the school president knows. But on an unknown day, the clock tower bell is rung, classes are canceled, and everyone heads for nature, or is supposed to. And so in
Yes, that's
1907,
right.
according to newspaper articles, 1,500 girls headed for the woods, and they had bacon bats in the woods.
That's wonderful information, which I could not have Googled. I knew I could get the information from you. Oh, you're geniuses. How cool. Thank you.
Sandy, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your memories.
Thank you so much. That was good. That was fun. Appreciate
All right,
it.
bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks, Sandy.
Bye-bye.
There are lots of words we hear from the other generations, younger and older, that we need a little explanation for. Martha and I can help you sort that out. 877-929-9673. Email words@waywardradio.org.
Ross McIntyre of Lyme, New Hampshire wrote us to say that he's been pondering the relationship that we humans have with the machines in our environment. And this was prompted by an experience he had when he parked on the upper level of a parking garage and he left after hours. And so what he was supposed to do was take the little ticket that you get at the beginning from that machine and put it into an envelope along with the payment. Well, he left the payment, but he forgot to include the parking ticket in there. And he got home and he was looking at that ticket and it had the number of the ticket and the time and the date of his arrival, but it also contained the words Upper Spitter. And he was thinking, what in the world? Is there actually a machine that gives you a ticket that's called a spitter?
Because it spits out tickets?
Yes. In that industry, those little tickets are called spitter tickets. And that device, that machine that gives you the ticket, that spits it out, is called either a spitter or an entry station or a parking ticket dispenser. But spitter is a term in the industry.
I love it. Well, because that's what it does. It spits out tickets.
Right?
The ticket spitter. That's fantastic.
Send us your stories about language. Our email address is words@waywardradio.org or call us 877-929-9673. This show's about language seen through family, history, and culture. Stay tuned for more of A Way with Words.
Support for A Way with Words comes from Jack and Caroline Raymond, proud sponsors of Wayward Inc., the nonprofit that produces and distributes this program. You're listening to A Way with Words, the show about language and how we use it. I'm Grant Barrett.
And I'm Martha Barnett, and there is some exciting news in the world of language. That's the publication of the Dictionary of Southern Appalachian English, edited by Michael Montgomery and Jennifer Heinmiller. It's the successor to Montgomery's 2004 volume, The Dictionary of Smoky Mountain English, which was focused on eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina. And he was the Distinguished Professor Emeritus of English and Linguistics at the University of South Carolina. He died in 2019, but Heinmiller, his former assistant, carried on the project. And one thing that's really exciting about this is that it's expanded to include parts of 8 states from southern West Virginia to northeastern Alabama. So this means there are thousands more entries and senses and citations. There are even photos in this dictionary. It's got this wonderfully expanded section on the grammar and syntax of Southern Appalachian and Smoky Mountain English, which, Grant, as you know, is really wonderful because there's such a stereotype about speech in that area. People
That's
Some
right.
people think of it as reflecting somebody who's uneducated, but the truth is that there's a system, there's a grammar, there's a structure and a beauty. It's not arbitrary. There are historical reasons for these features, and the
Hmm.
volume itself, as you know, is glorious.
It is a fantastic successor to the original volume, and it did merit, even though it is technically a second edition, it is so very different from the first. It has so much more material. It is worthy of the new title. And I got to say, this is a fine work of lexicography. As a dictionary editor, I can appreciate all of the hard work. And it's not just Michael Montgomery and Jennifer Heinmiller. This is based on the work of Joseph Hall, who in the 1930s, as a doctoral student, began doing linguistic research in the Smoky Mountains. And he went into people's homes and communities and gathered immense amounts of information in print form and audio tapes over decades. And that formed the original core of what Dr. Montgomery had been working with. And that information is in here as well. So this is a passion project for multiple people. And you can sense the care and even the affection for Appalachia and the people of Appalachia that is in this book. I think they've treated the language and the community with a lot of respect, and I think this is a work of lexicography that will be appreciated for centuries to come. This is a fantastic book.
Indeed, and it's a book that you can just sit and browse and see the wonderful poetry of the vocabulary of Southern Appalachia. I was just looking at words for specific times of day, like daybust, which is another term for daybreak, or good dark, which is after twilight. It's when it's good and dark outside, or blue snow is fine powdery snow that's very cold. There's a lot of poetry there, but it's really worth reading the part about the grammar and syntax of that area. I spent part of every summer in Western North Carolina, and I heard this stuff all the time, and it's so great to see it described in grammatical terms, like, for example, the postposed one. In the Smokies, to identify alternatives, speakers will use the word one instead of not only or either. For example, they'll say, this medicine will kill you or cure you, one. They'll end the sentence with that. Or settlers come here in the 1830s or the 1840s, one. That is just a natural feature of the speech in that area. And I heard that growing up, and it's so great to see it detailed and explained in this volume.
Yeah, that's one of many things. This book that we both recommend is The Dictionary of Southern Appalachian English, published by the University of North Carolina Press. It is edited by Michael Montgomery and Jennifer Heinmiller.
And we'd love to hear your questions and observations about any aspect of language whatsoever, so give us a call, 877-929-9673, or send your stories in email to words@waywardradio.org.
Hello, you have a way with words.
Hi, this is Alouette Island from Nelson, New Hampshire.
Alouette, hello, welcome to the show. What a lovely name.
Thank you. I like it.
What would you like to talk with us about?
Well, I am curious about the origin of the word hosey, as in, I hosey the front seat. And some people say dibs. And, I've been talking about this to people, and they're like, hosey, I never heard that. And I said, well, it's like dibs. And they say, oh, I know dibs. But have you heard this word, hosey?
Oh, yeah, we've heard it and lots of variations of it. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in various places. I was born in Massachusetts. We lived in Burlington. And then we moved to Marblehead. So I was in Massachusetts for most of my childhood, and then Milwaukee. And now back to the East Coast again. So I'm not really sure where I heard this word. I sort of think of it as a childhood word, so probably something that I heard a lot in Massachusetts.
Oh, sure. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So many kids in Massachusetts grew up saying hosey or hoozy or hornsey or hansey to claim something, to lay claim to whatever object you want. And isn't part of the whole game that you have to say it before anybody else?
Yes. Yeah, the first person who says it wins, right?
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's pretty local to New England. And Grant, I'm not sure that we have an origin for that. Some people have suggested that maybe it's a version of holdsy. I've got a hold on this thing. And,
yeah. There was some report of it from Horace Reynolds in his American Speech article that he had a report of it from southern England, but it's not it's not confirmed that it's possible that it came over from the UK.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's one of
Okay.
many, 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 many terms that children
Oh,
find useful.
dibs and
Right.
honies and
Oh, yeah.
finny and fin dibs and wacky and fin wacky, and those are just the US ones.
Yeah.
I don't know those. I mean, I know dibs, but I haven't heard the others.
Hosey is common in New England, or as Grant said, finny is another good one. I finny that. And
Huh.
then of course there's this whole group of expressions for defending what you've claimed, announcing that you're not going to share it with anybody else. Like no divvies, like I'm not going to divide it up. There's a whole slew
Oh,
of these.
wow. Okay.
In this article in the American Speech, there's an Irishman in Cork who says when he was a kid, you had to say the whole string of them. You would say fin dibs, fin shackies, no dibs, no akeys, no chips, no divvies, and no haveens. And that's how you got to. So that's how you said, I'm not
Wow.
sharing this. It'd be something that you brought from home or bought at the store, and it just meant
Yeah.
I'm not sharing any of this. So no one else can have what they call the first bore on your apple, a first bite, or a snooksy or licksies of your lollipop. They could not have a share of it.
So do you use that now?
No, I'm not sure why. I mean, I was listening to your show and it came into my head and I thought, I need to ask these folks, where this comes from because, and no, I haven't used it lately.
I mean, would you still
I
use
couldn't.
it as an adult is what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
In certain company, yes.
In certain companies.
If you were in a restaurant and you want a particular something behind the glass, you say, I hosey that piece of chicken. you, you wouldn't do that. Or
I hosey
I
that last
hosey that.
bagel.
Yeah. You're at a buy the slice pizza place. I hosey that last pizza piece.
I could see myself saying that, yeah.
We'll put a bunch of these on the website when we post the show. But Alouette, thank you
Oh,
so
thank
much
you.
for the call.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Maybe while we were talking about terms for claiming or defending what you have when you were a kid, all this dibs and hosey, maybe you thought of a term that you used that we didn't mention. Well, we'd love to hear that. Any of your variations are welcome. 877-929-9673. Or what else came to mind when we talked about the games that kids played, the weird words that you used, and the rhymes and chants? Send them to us in email, words@waywardradio.org, or tell us on Twitter @WAYWORD.
Among detectorists, those people who use metal detectors to find cool stuff buried underneath the earth, there's a term dials and smiles.
Dials and smiles.
Yeah.
Ooh, I always like a rhyming compound. What does that mean?
That's a hardcore detectorist. That's somebody who really loves tweaking the dials on their detector. That they're really into the technology because there's, of course, a whole range of these
Yeah.
metal detectors.
Oh, yeah. I could see the fascination of the gadget just as much as the
Yes.
discovery.
Yes. I could see you really getting into that, Grant.
I could see me getting too far into it. I need to go to some of those East Coast cities, though, where they have, many more hundreds of years than we do in California of settlement by the French and the English and the Dutch and the Spaniards, and we have a greater chance of finding something important.
Of course, we could always find a lost wedding ring or something like that. But
Yeah, on the
dials
beach.
and smiles. That guy is all
Dials
dials
and
and smiles. He really likes tweaking that equipment.
Well, we like to give you smiles on the dials. Give us a call, 877-929-9673, or talk to us on Twitter @WAYWORD.
Hi, you have a way with words.
Hi, I'm Philip. I'm from DFW area in Texas, and I was wondering about the phrase low sick. The low sick or low sig? I'm not sure exactly which one. As a police officer, that's a phrase we use. Like we'll say it over the radio so that other officers know the status of whatever the victim is. If he got hit by a car or something, we would say he's low sick, meaning that his chances of survival are low or slim, but we don't want to say that over the radio. So I was just wondering where that came from and how that came about, and if it's low sick or low sig or what.
So you're a police officer in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area, right?
That's correct.
This kind of plugs into a couple different things, and I've definitely got information for you. The term is low sick, LOWSICK. That's 2 words. While I do find it in one dictionary of police jargon and slang, it's actually an American Southernism, and it's largely used by Black Americans in the American South. And it goes back about 100 years. If you look online for people using it, there are a couple places where you find police in Dallas using it and maybe police in Atlanta. But mostly it's used by Black authors that I can find anywhere in print using it, including one noteworthy example is a short story by Langston Hughes, Simple Stakes a Claim from 1957. And you can find it in the young adult novels of Mildred Taylor, such as Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry from 1976. So it's really interesting to me because this low sick, meaning near death or very, very ill, so ill that it just really looks like you're not going to make it. This term appears to have migrated from being an everyday term for some people to being very specific in some police departments in the South, but not all police departments in the South.
Wow, that's interesting. So it's not low sig. I always thought it was low sig because they had like low vital signs or something. Low sick. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, you
Thank
thought
you.
maybe it was low sig for low signal, like a radio might have a low signal if its battery was weak.
Or like if they're about to be deceased, I would say they have low vital signs. So low sig is kind of what I was thinking.
No, it's low sick. It's just you can actually feel low. I say this sometimes. If I'm feeling low, it's like my mood is low, my spirit is low. I might be having a little bit of a malaise or a queasy stomach, and then you can be sick. And this is a combination of both those words. So if you're low sick, you're like doubly not well. Low sick is like the most sick you can be without croaking.
Okay. Well, that's definitely follows in line with how we use it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm always looking for in-house uses of language because this is one term I'd really like to get a handle on. The fact that it leapt from being an everyday term for Black Southern Americans to being used specifically for some police departments in the South is really interesting to me.
Appreciate the input, sir. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thanks
take
for
care
calling,
now.
Philip.
Be safe out there.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Bye-bye.
We'd love to hear about the slang in your workplace. Give us a call, 877-929-9673, or send it to us in email. The address is words@waywardradio.org. Hello, you have a way with words.
Hi, Martha and Grant. This is JJ calling from the western shore of Lake Michigan in Racine, Wisconsin.
Hi, JJ. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. I have a little language mystery I was wondering if you might help me make my way through.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I grew up in Coventry, Rhode Island, and I moved to the Midwest in the early 1980s. I learned pretty quickly that there were a lot of different words for things in Racine compared to Coventry, although both areas do use bubbler correctly. One idiom, however, has a very distinctly different meaning, pretty much, I guess, everywhere in the world except for where I grew up. One cold winter day, I was walking to my friend Dan and Sarah's house, and I slipped on an icy sidewalk. When I walked up to their door, I guess I must have looked distressed because they said, "Hey, are you all right?" I said, as I was holding my lower back, "No, I just took a dump on the ice, and I think I hurt myself." Laughter ensued. And I felt pretty incensed because I really thought I had hurt myself. I said, "No, I think I hurt my tailbone." And it wasn't until I rephrased myself that, "Hey, I slipped and fell, and I think I hurt myself." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And that's when I realized that the idiom that I had used did not mean the same thing that it did in Rhode Island, where I grew up.
Not at all.
When you said you took a dump on the ice, they were imagining something else.
They actually were for a good probably 10 minutes because they like,
Oh, dear.
fell in it.
You took a dump and you hurt yourself in the process.
I did not get a lot of
Yeah.
sympathy. And you know what's most strange is when I've been back in Rhode Island, I've asked people about this, and they
Yeah.
deny. They deny it until we were driving on the road and a motorcycle swerved and the guy almost fell off. And my friend Nina said, "Hey, that guy almost took a dump." And she turned around and looked at me. She's like, "We do use it." But other than on that momentarily unthought response, they won't admit it.
But yeah, you know what? And actually, the oldest meaning of dump, back as far as Middle English, was about falling. It's about somebody falling. Like, it was used in passages like, they dump in the deep and to death they pass, things like that. So the earliest usage was about people falling. And then later it was about things being kind of jumbled together in a pile or poured out into a pile or dropped in a pile.
Well, I would always tell my fourth graders at the start of the year, as I would explain how I would say things differently, that Rhode Island was settled first. So the way we used it was the first and right way.
The linguist and me will argue, but but I appreciate the comedy in that.
Yeah, I'm sure the fourth graders appreciated it too.
Yeah. JJ, thanks for sharing. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right. Take care now.
Be careful out there.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Grant, of course, the word that also comes to mind here is polysemy, Polysemy, polysemy.
That's right. Lots of words are polysemous. That means that they have more than one meaning. Sometimes they're similar meanings. They're shaded a little differently. But yeah, dump has multiple meanings, and they can cause hilarious conflicts of misapprehension if you're in a circumstance like JJ was. We know that you've had these things happen as well, where two people just didn't understand each other and it led to hilarious confusion. We love those stories and we'd like you to share them with us. 877-929-9673 or tell the story in email to words@waywardradio.org.
Thanks to senior producer Stephanie Levine, editor Tim Felton, and production assistant Rachel Elizabeth Weisler.
You can send us messages, subscribe to the podcast and newsletter, and catch up on hundreds of past episodes at waywardradio.org.
Our toll-free line is always open in the U.S. and Canada, 877-929-9673, or email us words@waywardradio.org.
A Way with Words is an independent production of Wayward, Inc., a nonprofit supported by listeners and organizations who are changing the way the world talks about language.
Many thanks to Wayward board member and our friend Bruce Rogo for his help and expertise.
Thanks for listening. I'm Grant Barrett.
And I'm Martha Barnett. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.